Hey there, everybody. Welcome back with the Purplatypus is the name, and today we're going to be talking about the best early game classes in Like a Dragon. I was going to say Dragon Quest, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. And by early game, I mean 18 hours when we actually unlock this system, as that's roughly how long it took me. I think it took between 16 and 18 hours to actually unlock the job system. But what we're going to do is kind of go over the ones that I think are the strongest and why I think they're the strongest. And so I'm kind of go character to character because there's actually a build here that I'm kind of going for my whole team. Now, my characters aren't currently all the jobs that I want them to be, but they will get there. Also, when I'm talking early game, I am including only the jobs that you unlock for $200 here, right? I don't want to assume people have the $1,600 or the confidence to do it, and then you have to go grind confidence. I'm just going with the ones that I know everyone's likely to be able to have because these are the cheap ones. These are much lower thresholds to hit. So you should be able to get pretty much all these as soon as you get here, and you won't have any trouble. So that's the ones we're going with. Quit talking to me. So number one, we're going to kind of go from in order of characters. So this one is interesting. I really like Action Star, and I think Action Star is going to scale pretty well into the late game with lots of really interesting, powerful attacks. Especially one of my favorite ones is the Rapid Dance Kick, just being able to increase your agility consistently while attacking. But I mean, early on, this might be better later, but early on, just the base class, the exclusive job Dragon of Dojima is so strong. Because it's a class that doesn't have a weapon, until you can really heavily invest in the weapons, just the base scaling of this class is going to totally outdo everything else. I mean, and also it's like tons of guaranteed crits. You know, you've got built-in grapples. The stance swapping is very powerful. Being able to, you know, take 2 attack actions or being able to grapple or being able to do a heat action. Like, these things are all super, super powerful. And in the early game, honestly, there's just no replacement for Kiryu than the Dragon of Dojima. You could, like, I'm leveling up the Action Star because I really like the visual style of the Action Star, and it's a fun class, and I want to get to these later levels. But if you're having trouble in the game, difficulty-wise, you really should stay the Dragon of Dojima for a large portion of the game until you can easily level up jobs fast and get better weapons. That way this class can actually catch up. Now, for the rest of the build, this one I actually think is this is kind of the build I'm going for the team. And so the cornerstone of it is going to be the Tsuji Mancer. So you heard me talk about it in a previous video, I'm sure, if you've seen it. But basically, the Tsuji Mancer is a Kiryu exclusive job that you unlock by doing the getting the first gym badge of the Sujimon minigame. And this is basically just an all-in insane magic damage dealer. That's what this class does. It does lots of magic damage. And this is kind of the cornerstone. Kiryu is my main damage dealer. Now, early on in the game, it is difficult. It is not sustainable. It's really hard to get enough MP to cast these every turn. So you're saving the MP for big boys usually, right? You're not going to be using this to farm a lot, because right now I only have 87 MP and I have items equipped to increase that. And this takes 20, right? So it's an insane amount. But the reason why this class is so strong in the early game, and I think probably the strongest class, is because the gear for this class is based off the minigame. So if you're look at these numbers here, like 44, 36, or even we'll take a look here, right? When you start with Sujimon, you get Sujimon at stats level 8. Once you invest and you start beating the minigame, I'm now at 849. I haven't not been able to one-shot anything with these skills yet. So is it going to fall off? Is it going to be the best damage dealer for the entire game? That I don't know. I would be surprised if it's the best in the super late game, just because of its limited options in terms of it doesn't have a lot of debuffs, right? And I usually value debuffs, but maybe you have other characters debuff and buff, and then this character just focuses on damage. The fact that it doesn't have weapons directly is potentially an issue, but you know what? We'll cross that when we get to it. Right now, it's like so insane in the early game. And also, so like to kind of go over why it's insane, yes, it's got all the coverage, right? It's got single target knockback elemental damage of all 3 elemental types. It's got a little bit of debuff. It's got healing, AoE healing. It's also got AoE damage. It doesn't have any grapple. That is a weakness of it. It doesn't have grapple, so it can't guard break. But it doesn't matter because we're playing the hero. Kasuga already has built in like the merciless melee can always grapple. You could bring a grappling attack over with really low MP costs, you know, for this. But also, it has this ultimate ability here of call upon your best friends to revive any and all fallen allies with half their HP. It's an AoE revive. An AoE revive on a skill is so good. And the fact that it's just combined like with just insane amounts of damage. So like it's an pretty insane class overall, and I think it's easily the strongest class in the early game. But to kind of finish the build, we're going to actually go over here. And I actually think Pyro Dancer is good. That's what I would have Kiryu if I could switch them. But I actually think for the build, the Pyro Dancer is very good, actually. Very, very good. But that's not what we're talking about. I am going to be going with Cabby as the best starting class for Eric, because it's so synergistic with what I'm trying to do, basically. He has a ton of things that do things like this, right? You do damage and you lower resistance. You decrease their resistance. You know, do generic magic damage, and it has AoE and single target good damage, and then it has lowers their resistances to fire. Then he just has like it's a combination. Basically, it's a debuffer. It's good damage and a debuffer, which I really, really value. And also, like, this will work with like if you do scrub down, right? You lower their resistance to electricity. You can also do that. Like, that's kind of why I have him as the action star as well, is because I have an electric weapon, right? So all of his abilities are actually doing electric damage, even though they don't say that. So that's absolutely something that is kind of synergistic, because the debuff that he does, even though he's doing magic damage and he's lowering resistances, it doesn't only work with other magical spells. It'll work with physical spells as well. So the Cabby's really, really cool with its debuffs. I really love that class. And honestly, it's not like the tankiest class, but it's not the least tanky class. Like the Pyro Dancer and the Sujimancer are all pretty like, sorry, not the Sujimancer. What's the other one that's really like? It was the Pyro Dancer and the maybe it was just the Action Star. That was like, this not that tanky. But this class also. So as far as Chitose, I think the Geodancer is definitely the way to go here, at least for this build. Like, there's definitely cases if you want her to be your magic damage dealer, you're going to go Housekeeper, right? And because you could steal money, that's kind of neat. But also, she just does really good magic damage and a lot of AoE, so it could be good for early farming. But I don't really think I need that many redundant damage dealers. I would rather have a combination of things. And so Eris could also be, you know, you're slightly more physical, a little bit of healing, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. None of it is like insanely good. This is kind of more of a debuff thing. I don't like trying to debuff enemies' agility that much because it could miss, but this is actually one of those abilities I might level this up. If debuffs are guaranteed lands, obviously I don't have this yet, but if this is a guaranteed land, I'll probably take that from this skill tree and move it over to another one here. But the reason Geodancer is it's so synergistic with everything we're doing. Yes, it's a support class, so they could heal. It's a damage class, so they could deal heavy damage. But it's also got a lot of good buffs. Boosts you and your nearby allies' magic with the traditional dance. So it's true, Kiryu is not benefiting from this right now, but usually you could hit herself, and then you could hit, not Nanba, what's his name? Eric, and then you get Ichiban. So you're kind of giving everyone a damage boost with this skill, and it's only 10 MP. And then, so you could do that, stack it up to 3 times. Also, you could do the Honolulu hips. So you could be doing pretty good magic damage, trying to debuff their willpower, which will further increase your damage. So you can hit this, hit that, hit this, hit that, heal, hit this, hit that. You know, so like she's got a pretty good kind of circle here, keeping everyone healed, keeping everyone's damage up, and debuffing the enemy so you could deal more damage to them. And also, like, just further beyond that, it's kind of it. She's the support, the main support. She has really good attacks, really good healing, and honestly, I like the buffs. Buffs, I think, they usually tend to be better than debuffs, only because they're guaranteed to land. But if status ailments debuffs are guaranteed to land, then they could be equally as good. And honestly, there's some fights where Ukulele Strum, like, there's enemies that just do a lot of magic damage. Being able to increase your magic damage by a ton and your evasion by a ton with just one ability, that's great. This is like, she could switch roles. If an enemy is going to start doing a lot of damage, she could just go full support, heal everyone, revive people, go full support, keep everyone alive. Or if there's like openings, she could then double down to increase your attack damage while dealing a lot of damage herself. Let's actually take a look what this one is. Remove status elements, heals everybody. just captivating assault, increasing magic damage and inflicting magic damage, sorry. Possibly lowering willpower, so this is great. Again, it's kind of like an AoE version of that. And then another chance to lower willpower. So she's got these great debuff skills. And so those are going to be the classes that I think are the strongest in the beginning. Obviously, there's more, right? This is the tennis player. This is the assassin or hitman. It looks like they have a gun there. But I will further kind of go into more builds and how to build specific characters, what I think characters are going to be best at. Because every character, they might have access to roughly the same jobs, but they all have a unique job. So that means they all kind of have access to a couple skills that no one else does. And I do think I think Eric's ability to freaking lower defense and resistances combined with Chitose's ability to lower their willpower, combined with, because if you lower their lightning resist and then you lower their willpower, then you raise your magic and you're hitting with these really powerful Sujimon lightning damage guys, like it's just insane, right? And even once you do that, like you might not be getting full effect, but just doing like a lot of damage here. But the reason why, even though I think the Action Star and Dragon of Dojima are great, I just kind of like leveling up other classes because they're fun to watch. But I do think that the Pyro Dancer could be the way to go here for Kiryu. Because it's a pretty physical class for the most part, but it has some magic and it actually has really good AoE. What am I looking at? Let's look at this one. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at, there we go. I'm like, what? These skills don't look right. It won't actually let me look at the skills here, huh? On him. So we'll look at it on Eric here. But like, it has the ability to self-heal. It's kind of a self-sustaining class in that way. It's got AoE damage, which is actually pretty good. Blinding. The healing is not great, but it's fine. And then this is kind of more of like if you're trying to support your allies with physical stuff. It's an interesting class. It's like an all-in berserker. Right, really low defense, but high HP and attack. It's a cool class. I thought, like, based off this, a tricky fighter capable of heavy magic damage. This is not a magic class. There is some magic it could do, but it's almost entirely physical. Like, there's 2 magic it could do. And honestly, Mask of Punishment, I think, is one that I want to level up, and that's why I'm here right now. I'm going to bring that back over to Cabby, probably. You just cast it, and then it starts striking enemies with lightning. Every few turns. I think that's a really powerful ability because if you just get that going and then you could focus on healing while dealing damage. It is random, so you might want to use it on some fights and not others. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I think Sujimancer is the strongest class in the game by far at this point of the game. Maybe as I go to chapter 6, 7, 8, it will change. But the raw damage output of this class has been insane. Anyway, that's all for today. The platypus is Purplatypus. I will see you on the flip-flop. You have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.